Let me make one thing clear. I didn't leave because I was weak. I left because I finally got strong enough to walk away from what was destroying me inside. You see the headlines. You see the fame. You think it's all glamorous. The clicks, the money, the fake love. But what you don't see is the soul that's silently dying behind the screen. They told me I was living the dream. They lied. I was sold a fantasy, but I was the product. I was called empowered, but every night I felt powerless. This isn't a sob story. This is a survival story. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to wake you up, because if I can walk away from the chains of the industry that nearly broke me, oh, then maybe you can walk away from your own cage, whatever it is. Fame means nothing when your peace is gone. I was famous, but empty. People think when you're trending, when your name is on everyone's tongue, when the world can't stop watching you, you've made it. They think success is the spotlight, the money, the validation. But what they don't see is the silence after the scene cuts. The quiet in the room when you're alone. The questions that come at night. When you try to sleep, that's when the truth shows up. That's when the lies fall apart. I was surrounded by cameras, but no one saw me. I had millions of followers, but I had no one to call. Lies. I was loved on the internet, but I hated who I had to be to stay relevant. The industry sold me a dream. They said I'd be rich, powerful, unstoppable. They said I'd control the narrative, but I didn't feel powerful. I felt used. Every shoot took something away from me. Every fake smile, every fake scene, every edited clip chipped away at who I was. And the worst part, I smiled through it. I acted like I was fine, because when the world tells you you're winning, you start to doubt your own pain. You start thinking maybe it's just you. Maybe you're ungrateful. Maybe you're weak. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. I knew I wasn't okay. I knew the price I was paying was too high for the attention I was getting. People don't talk about the emotional hangover. They don't talk about the shame that clings to your skin after the cameras are off. They don't talk about the emptiness you feel when you realize you're building a brand on a version of yourself that isn't real. I was acting every day. On set and off, I had to be strong, sexy, confident, outspoken, but inside I was anxious, broken, confused. I was tired of pretending, tired of smiling for people who didn't care about me, tired of defending a lifestyle that was silently destroying me. I kept asking myself, is this it? Is this what success feels like? Because if it is, I don't want it. I didn't want to be known for what I did on screen. I wanted to be known for who I really was, for what I believed in, for what I survived. But no one wanted that story. They just wanted the fantasy, the clicks, the controversy. The same media that made me famous never cared about the person behind the viral name. They loved the scandal, not the human being. They made money from my trauma, and I let them. Because I thought it was normal. I thought that was the price of being noticed in this world. What people don't get is that it's not just about leaving the industry. It's about healing from what the industry took from you. It's about facing the mirror and asking yourself who you really are when the performance ends. I was addicted to approval, addicted to validation, addicted to pretending I was fine. And even when I knew I wasn't happy, I kept going because the fame was loud enough to drown out the truth. But the truth never leaves you. It follows you into every room. It sits with you in silence, and no amount of likes, views, or interviews could replace the feeling of waking up and not recognizing yourself. Fame is loud, but peace is quiet. And I realized I hadn't felt peace in years, not real peace, the kind that lets you breathe without guilt, not the kind that lets you exist without a mask. I had lost that. I had traded it for a spotlight that never loved me back. I was empty, not because I had nothing, but because I had everything that didn't matter. I didn't escape the industry. I escaped my own silence. The truth is, long before I walked away from the porn world, I had already stopped listening to myself. I left. I stopped hearing the voice inside me that used to scream for something real, something safe, something that didn't feel like a lie. I muted my own instincts just to keep the noise of the world going. I told myself to shut up and smile, to do what they wanted, to fit the role. I wasn't just trapped in an industry. I was trapped in a version of myself that I had created to survive. And for a long time, survival looked a lot like success. But deep inside, I was hiding from the part of me that knew I deserved more, hiding from the part of me that remembered who I was before all this. Silence is powerful when it's chosen. But mine wasn't. Mine was forced by fear, by shame, by the pressure to keep going even when everything inside me was breaking. I stayed quiet because I thought speaking up meant failure. I thought telling the truth meant weakness. I thought if I said I was unhappy, I'd be labeled ungrateful. I'd be told I asked for it. I'd be told I made my bed and now had to lie in it. So I said nothing. I smiled for the cameras. I posted like I was proud. I acted like I was in control. But I wasn't. I was spiraling in silence. And the more I kept it in, the louder it got inside me. People don't understand the kind of silence I'm talking about. It's not peaceful. It's not calm. It's screaming inside your own head and not letting a sound come out. It's convincing yourself daily that this is normal, that this is what you signed up for. It's laughing in interviews while your soul begs for rest. It's posting glamorous pictures with dead eyes. It's being praised for being bold when in reality you feel invisible. Every word I didn't say became a brick in the wall I built around myself. And the higher it got, the more I lost sight of the way out. When I say I escaped my silence, I don't mean I just spoke out publicly. I mean, I started telling myself the truth in private. I admitted I wasn't happy. I admitted I wasn't okay. I admitted I didn't recognize the woman I had become. I started having real conversations with myself, painful ones. I started asking questions I had avoided for years. Why am I still doing this? Who am I trying to please? What am I running from? And slowly, my silence cracked, not all at once, not with some big announcement, but with small truths. Quiet moments where I stopped lying to myself. Escaping silence is terrifying because once you do it, you can't pretend anymore. You can't go back to being blind. You can't return to what you used to justify. Once you speak your truth, even to yourself, the illusion shatters. And that's where real change starts. Not with the audience, not with the world, but with you. The world didn't free me. I freed me. I took off the mask, not for applause, but because I was suffocating underneath it. The industry didn't hold the keys to my cage. My silence did. And the moment I broke that silence, I started walking out. Not just from a job or a title or a contract, but from a version of myself that was never truly mine. They used my body, but they couldn't kill my mind. That's why I'm still standing. There's a difference between being broken and being bent. The industry tried to break me in every way it could, dressing it up as opportunity, calling it empowerment, wrapping it in attention and false praise. But underneath every scene, behind every contract, there was a transaction happening that nobody talks about, a quiet exchange of pieces of myself for temporary value. My body was the currency. My worth was calculated in views, likes, and clicks. The more I gave physically, the more they demanded. But through it all, there was one thing they couldn't touch: my mind. They couldn't own my thoughts. They couldn't rewrite what I knew deep down, and they couldn't erase the part of me that refused to die inside. They could film me, frame me, and feed me to the masses, but they couldn't kill the part of me that remembered who I really was before I was branded. They couldn't kill the girl who used to dream of more, who used to look in the mirror and see someone whole. That girl was buried, but not gone. I had to go through hell to hear her voice again, but it was always there. That quiet resistance inside me that said, this isn't what you were meant for. That said, you're more than a product, more than a performance, more than what they say you are. That's the part they couldn't reach. They could sell my image, but not my soul. They could silence my name, but not my thoughts. The mind is where real freedom starts. And even when I was trapped, I held onto that truth. I educated myself when no one was watching. I journaled my pain when no one listened. I started to rebuild my self-worth not from what they told me, but from what I told myself. I told myself I mattered. I told myself I could leave. I told myself I could start over. They say the mind is the most powerful weapon, and I learned that in the middle of a war I didn't even know I was fighting. Every day I stayed was a battle, not against the people on set, but against the voice inside me that kept saying, get out. They tried to define me by what I did, by what I showed, by how I looked. But I was never just a body. I was never just content. And no matter how much they tried to strip me down, I kept one thing protected. My vision. My mind held onto the future. A version of life where I was free. A version of life where I wasn't just surviving. I saw it, even in the darkest moments. And that's why I'm still here. Because I believed there was life beyond being seen as an object. Because I believed I could be known for something more than what I was told to be. The pain didn't destroy me. It taught me. The shame didn't paralyze me. It woke me up. The manipulation didn't trap me forever. It opened my eyes. I realized that as long as I had my mind, I had power. And the moment I decided to reclaim that power, I started moving. Every thought of self-respect, every boundary I drew, every step away from the screen was an act of rebellion. It was me saying, you can take the footage, you can own the rights, you can push the headlines, but you don't own me. Not anymore. You never did. My mind is mine. My future is mine. My voice is mine. Left. And no one gets to use that without my permission. Quitting porn wasn't weakness. It was the first time I chose myself. People think walking away is easy, like you just wake up one day and decide to leave, but it's not like that. It's complicated. It's messy. It's terrifying, especially when your entire identity has been built around something the world doesn't let you forget. I wasn't just leaving a job. I was leaving a version of myself that the world had already branded. I was walking away from money, exposure, fake admiration, and the comfort of being relevant, even if it was for the wrong reasons. But none of that ever truly belonged to me. The moment I chose myself, I knew I'd lose everything that was built on pretending to be someone I never truly was. Choosing yourself sounds empowering in theory, but in reality, it often feels like breaking your own heart. Because the version of me that thrived in that industry was created to survive. She was strong in all the ways people wanted her to be. She smiled, posed, performed. She was also deeply disconnected from who I really was. And in order to choose myself, I had to let her go. I had to let go of the image that got me recognition, the character people loved to hate or worship. That version of me had gotten me through some of the darkest times, but she wasn't built to carry me into the future. She was built out of pain, out of pressure, out of the belief that I had no other choice. The truth is, I left. I didn't know who I was without that life. I didn't know what I would become on the other side. All I knew was that I was tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of defending something that didn't align with my values anymore. tired of shrinking myself into a role that didn't fit. And for the first time, I asked myself what it would look like if I just stopped. If I stopped trying to prove something. If I stopped performing strength and actually found it within myself. That was the moment everything started to shift. I realized I didn't have to keep carrying a life that was too heavy for my heart. Walking away was painful. It meant being misunderstood. It meant hearing people say I failed. It meant people assuming I regretted everything, or worse, that I owed them an explanation. Left, but I didn't do it for them. I did it for the version of me that had been buried under contracts and headlines. For the girl who once believed she was enough without needing to be naked for validation. For the woman who deserved peace more than she needed to be seen. Quitting wasn't running away. It was walking towards something real, something honest, something mine. The most powerful thing I did wasn't leaving the industry. It was choosing to love myself enough to know I deserved more. More than attention, more than money, more than false empowerment. I deserved the kind of life that didn't require me to trade dignity for relevance. I deserved a life where I could rest without guilt, speak without being filtered, and live without being reduced to a stereotype. Quitting didn't make me weak. It made me brave, because choosing yourself in a world that profits off your self-abandonment is the most radical thing you can do. There's a strength that comes from reclaiming your narrative, from saying, this isn't who I am anymore, and allowing yourself the space to evolve. I didn't leave because I was broken. I left because I was finally whole enough to know I didn't belong there. I stopped letting other people define what strength looked like for me. I stopped waiting for permission to take back my life. I started choosing myself in ways that weren't loud or dramatic, but steady and unshakable. I started creating boundaries where there had only been exposure. I started healing in the quiet, away from the noise that once defined me.